Today's lesson is Beyond Colors and Stripes, unpacking the hidden meanings in national flags. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
Hi, I'm Kiki.
And today we're going to be talking about flags. More specifically, we're going to be talking about national flags, like the flags of different countries. You may recognize, say, the flag of Canada with its big maple leaf in the middle, or the flag of the United States with the stars and stripes. And, of course, we've got a flag here in Taiwan, and there are flags all over the world. Japan's flag is white with a red dot in the middle. You get the idea, but it's more than just colors and stripes. We've got hidden meanings in those flags, which we want to unpack in today's lesson.
That's right. So when we're unpacking something, we're not just taking things out of a box or out of your bag. You are also trying to analyze something and look into its components or look into its elements. What makes something what it is? So we're really trying to look more in depth and in detail about the hidden meanings in national flags. All right, so let's start off by listening to part 1.
Beyond Colors and Stripes, unpacking the hidden meanings in national flags. At first glance, national flags might appear to be nothing more than simple pieces of colored fabric. However, they often hold far deeper meanings. Let's take a look at some of the hidden stories woven into national flags. Using only 2 colors, the Ukrainian flag has one of the simplest designs out there. Its bold horizontal stripes of blue and yellow show the country's rich agricultural heritage. The first color evokes the blue skies above the plains, while the latter represents golden fields of wheat. This design was likely chosen because wheat is so economically vital to the country, which is the world's 7th largest wheat producer.
大家好，第一部分我们来看到片语 nothing more than， 意思是只不过点点点或是仅仅点点点。例如 After buying my new car, I had nothing more than a few $100 left in the bank. 我买了新车后，银行里只剩下几百美金。又或者说 The great plan that Sheila spoke about was nothing more than an idea she thought up right before the meeting. Sheila 所说的大计划只不过是她在会议前才想到的一个点子。接下来介绍形容词 agricultural， 它指的是农业的或是以农业为主的。例如Frank is a mechanic who specializes in repairing agricultural machinery. Frank 是专门维修农业机具的技师。或者 Bananas, mangoes, and pineapples are Taiwan's major agricultural products. 香蕉、芒果和凤梨是台湾的主要农产品。接着看到 heritage， 它是名词，意思是具有历史文化意义的遗产或是传统。举例来说These works of art are of great importance to Italy's cultural heritage. 这些艺术作品对意大利的文化遗产而言非常重要。又或者说 Folk songs are an important part of Australia's national heritage. 民谣是澳洲国家传统的一个重要部分。再来是动词 evoke， 表示引起或是唤起。例如 Hearing from an old friend evoked Sarah's memories of growing up in their hometown.收到一位老朋友的消息，勾起了 Sarah 在家乡长大的回忆。又或者说 The movie evoked a wide range of emotions from the audience. 这部电影唤起观众各种不同的情绪。
Okay, let's talk about part 1 now. Again, we're talking about the hidden meanings in national flags, okay? In other words, these are meanings that you probably didn't know much about. You probably recognize the flags of different countries, but you probably never thought, why did they choose that particular color? Or why did they choose that particular shape or pattern? Well, that's what we're going to try to explain to you today. Now, here in the first paragraph, it says, at first glance, when you first look at something, national flags might appear to be nothing more than simple pieces of colored fabric. Yes, it's nothing more than that. It's only that. You look at the flag and you'll think, okay, the Russian flag has red and blue and white. Isn't that cute? They probably just designed that flag because the colors look nice together. That's probably what most people think. But no, those different colors will have different meanings.
Okay, so in the first sentence, we have this phrase, nothing more than, or it can also mean only. So basically, if you say that someone or something is nothing more than something else, you're basically just emphasizing that they're only this one thing. Okay, so it's also kind of suggesting that it's not interesting or important. Okay, so in this case, we're talking about these flags. They might be nothing more than. So they might seem like just simple pieces of fabric, but they actually have a lot of more important or deeper meanings. Okay, so we continue with, however, they often hold far deeper meanings. So the flags that we see, the colors that are chosen, they actually are a lot more meaningful and they have deep meanings to these countries and their people. And there are reasons why they chose to put what they want on their flags.
There's a reason why they chose those patterns, but we're going to unfurl some of the stories that are woven into national flags. Okay, so let's start with the next paragraph here. It says, using only 2 colors, the Ukrainian flag has one of the simplest designs out there. So yes, indeed, because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we've seen the Ukrainian flag all over the place, and most of us now know what their flag looks like. But it's a very simple design. It only has 2 colors. Just like the flag of Poland or the flag of Indonesia, they've only got 2 colors. And Ukraine's flag is very simple, but it has a very deep meaning.
Its bold horizontal stripes of blue and yellow show the country's rich agricultural heritage. Okay, so they've chosen this blue and yellow color because they want to represent their country's rich agricultural heritage. Okay, so they want to show the world that their country has a lot of this thing. And basically, agricultural means something that is related to agriculture, so farming or rural things, countryside. So in this case, they're trying to share that they grow a lot of things and possibly export a lot of things as well. That's part of a country's agricultural heritage. And of course, heritage is the qualities that are historic or traditions that have been passed down from generations. So it's representing that the Ukrainians, they have a long historical heritage of farming. So lots of families, they will pass down their farming knowledge. And this is a rich part of their history.
Right, you could say the French are proud of their cultural heritage. They've had lots of traditions that have been passed down for hundreds of years, and people in Ukraine are proud of their agricultural heritage. And again, they're proud of the fact that they are basically farmers there. Ukraine is quite a large country. And again, we're talking about those horizontal stripes on the flag. Horizontal just means having to do with the horizon, which goes from left to right. The opposite would be vertical, which would be up and down. So on this particular flag, we've got horizontal stripes, just like we've got horizontal stripes on the Russian flag, on the German flag, on the American flag. Those are all horizontal stripes, whereas in Italy and in France and Ireland, they've got vertical stripes or vertical rectangles, which we'll get to in just a couple of minutes here. But again, we've got these horizontal stripes on the Ukraine flag. They are blue and yellow in color. Now, the first color evokes the blue skies above the plains. So yes, those 2 stripes are blue and yellow. You've got blue on the top and yellow on the bottom. Well, the blue stripe on the top will evoke the blue skies above the plains where the food grows. To evoke just means to sort of represent, or it reminds you of this sort of thing. So when you see that color, it will make you think of the blue skies above the ground.
Right. So the plains are basically flat, large pieces of land. And of course, if we're talking about agriculture, you need a lot of flat land to grow things. So in this case, while the latter represents golden fields of wheat. Okay, so we know that the yellow is the bottom stripe, and that represents golden fields of wheat. We usually think of wheat as being gold or yellow, and yellow is a good color to represent it. Okay, so here we also have this phrase, while the latter, and it's basically just referring to this second thing because we mentioned earlier blue and yellow. So while the latter would just be referring to the mention of yellow.
Right. The first one is referring to the blue skies, and the latter one is representing the golden fields of wheat. That's news to me. I thought the yellow represented sunflowers, but I guess I'm wrong here. The yellow represents wheat, and this design was likely chosen because wheat is so economically vital to the country, which is the world's 7th largest wheat producer. Economically here just has to do with economics, basically the flow of goods and services in an economy or in a country. And yes, indeed, it's vital. It's very important to Ukraine because they sell a lot of wheat to other countries, so that is important to their economy.
Okay, that's the end of part 1. Let's continue with part 2.
Japan's flag has another simple design packed with meaning. A red circle sits in the center of a plain white rectangle. The latter color represents the purity and honesty of the Japanese people, while the former color stands for their passion and warmth. The significance of the circular shape should also not be overlooked. It represents both the rising sun and the sun goddess, Amaterasu, who Japanese believe is the ancestor of their emperor. In contrast, Ireland's flag is more about the nation's hopes for the future than its history. 3 equally sized vertical rectangles fill the design: green on the left, orange on the right, and white in the center. The first 2 colors represent the nation's 2 different groups of Christians. These groups have engaged in violent conflicts in the past, so the white was added to represent the longed-for peace between them.
第二部分介绍 overlook 这个动词指的是忽视、忽略，但同时也可以是俯瞰或是眺望的意思。可以说 I overlooked a step in the recipe, so I have to start all over again. 我忽略了食谱里的一个步骤，所以我必须从头来过。再看一个例子 Phil stood on the balcony, which overlooked the hotel's swimming pool. Phil 站在阳台上，俯瞰着饭店的泳池。
Okay, now let's shift our attention to Japan, which you're all familiar with. Japan's flag has another simple design packed with meaning. Now, a red circle sits in the center of a plain white rectangle. Yes, most of us would recognize the flag of Japan if we saw it. The latter color, which is referring to white, represents the purity and honesty of the Japanese people. Indeed, they are pure and they are honest. While the former, the first thing we mentioned, was the red circle. That stands for their passion and warmth, which is news to me again. I thought that red circle in the middle just meant the sun, you know, the land of the rising sun. But in this particular case, it's a hidden meaning that we didn't know before. It represents their passion and their warmth. So indeed, if you go to Japan, the people will be very warm with you. They are very polite.
The significance of the circular shape should also not be overlooked. So overlooked basically just means fail to notice or to skip on this or to miss it. So don't miss it. And sometimes overlook can also mean to have a view from above. So in this case, don't overlook the meaning of this circle right in the middle of their flag. It represents both the rising sun and the sun goddess Amaterasu, who Japanese believe is the ancestor of their emperor.
So I guess I wasn't wrong. It does represent the rising sun, but it also represents the warmth and passion of the Japanese people, and it also represents their sun goddess, Amaterasu. Okay, moving on now to another part of the world in contrast or opposite to Japan's flag. Ireland's flag is more about the nation's hopes for the future than its history. So, yes, we're talking about the flag of Ireland, and here it says 3 equally sized vertical rectangles fill the design. Green on the left, orange on the right, and white in the center. So that gives us a description of the flag of Ireland. We've got those vertical rectangles as opposed to the horizontal stripes of the Ukraine flag. These are vertical, they go up and down, and they're rectangles. We've got a green vertical rectangle on the left, and we've got an orange vertical rectangle on the right, and then we've got white in the center, or a white vertical rectangle in the center.
The first 2 colors, green and orange, represent the nation's 2 different groups of Christians. These groups have engaged in violent conflicts in the past, so the white was added to represent the longed for peace between them. Okay, so the 2 colors, green and orange, they're representing different groups of Christians. So there's Protestant Christians and
Catholic Christians, and I believe the green part of the flag represents the Catholics, and the orange represents the Protestants. And then here it goes on to say, the white was added to represent the longed-for peace between them. So yes, they've had these violent conflicts. They've been in the news quite a bit in the past, the fight between the Catholics and the Protestants, but the white there represents the peace that they long for, that they all wish they had, and apparently they've been at peace for quite some time. Okay, we're at the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's listen now to the third and final part.
Last but not least, Kyrgyzstan's detailed national flag probably isn't one you instantly recognize. Like Japan's flag, it features a representation of the sun. However, the sun on this flag has 40 rays, one to represent each of the 40 tribes that united to form the country. Inside the sun is a circle crossed by 2 sets of lines. This represents a yurt, which is a type of traditional tent. The red background symbolizes the nation's bravery, while the yellow stands for wealth and peace. In short, national flags are more than mere pieces of fabric. They are symbols of a nation's spirit, hopes, and history. What hidden stories does your country's flag tell you?
第3部分我们看到片语 last but not least 表示最后但同样重要的是点点点。例如 This car is safe, has lots of room, and last but not least, isn't expensive. 这辆车安全又宽敞，最后但同样重要的是它不贵。或是 Here are the eggs, the butter, and last but not least, the milk for making the pancakes. 这里有鸡蛋、奶油，还有最后但也一样重要的牛奶来制作这种煎饼。最后我们来看到名词 representation， 它的意思是象征、描绘或是代表。举例来说A family tree is a representation of the relationships among the family's members. 家谱是家庭成员之间关系的呈现。最后一个例子 For Madison, the blanket will always be a representation of her mother's love. 对 Madison 来说，这条毯子永远代表着她母亲的爱。
Okay, last but not least. In this phrase, it's basically meaning the last to be mentioned, but it doesn't mean it's not important. So last but not least, Kyrgyzstan's detailed national flag probably isn't one you instantly recognize. Okay, so Kyrgyzstan, their flag is a bit more complex than the ones we talked about earlier on, and we might not be able to recognize it right away. Like Japan's flag, it features a representation of the sun. So just like Japan's flag, the red circle, it represents the sun. So their flag, Kyrgyzstan's flag, also has a form of representation of the sun. And basically, a representation is to portray or to describe something or someone in a particular way. So how does Kyrgyzstan represent the sun, Roger?
Well, they've got this circle in the middle, and it's got 40 rays coming out of that circle in the middle. I believe it's yellow against a red background. It's actually kind of cool. I had to look it up for today's lesson because, yeah, it's one you don't instantly recognize. And each of those rays represent each of the 40 tribes that united to form the country. That's quite nice here. And inside the sun is a circle crossed by two sets of lines. This represents a yurt, which is a type of traditional tent. So when you hear the word yurt, it's kind of a traditional tent that people in Asia have used for centuries. And the red background symbolizes the nation's bravery, while the yellow stands for wealth and peace. So yes, red does stand for bravery. It symbolizes that, or it is a symbol of bravery. The people there are quite brave. They're willing to fight to defend their country, and they're not afraid. And then the yellow of that sun in the middle with its 40 rays stands for wealth and peace. You could say it represents wealth and peace, or it symbolizes wealth and peace. They want to be rich, but they also want to be at peace and not fighting.
So symbolizes is to be a symbol of something or to represent the meaning of something using another thing. Okay, so in this case, these colors are used to symbolize something. In short, national flags are more than mere pieces of fabric. So when we see flags, we have to think they're not just pieces of cloth or they're not just fabric. They actually have a lot more meaning to it. They are symbols of a nation's spirit, hopes, and history. What hidden stories does your country's flag tell you? Okay, so these flags, they're not just pieces of fabric. They are things that represent a nation and what the nation or what the country wants for the future and how they feel about their country and how they embrace their past. Okay, so make sure you find out what hidden stories are in your country's flag. Okay, that comes to the end of our article. Let's listen to our lovely Chinese teacher, Henny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny， 今天要练习篇章结构的题型。那这次文章是关于国旗中的隐藏含义，题目有4个空格，但是有5个选项哦。那我们先来看看这5个句子吧。 A 选项他说 The significance of the circular shape should also not be overlooked， 圆形的重要意义也不应被忽视。这里的关键词在于 the circular shape， 这表示前方的叙述可能就有提到圆形哦。选项 B On the other hand, some flags like Ireland's, use colors to symbolize power and national pride. 另一方面，有些国旗像是爱尔兰的国旗，用颜色来象征权力和民族的骄傲。那注意这边有用到转折词 on the other hand， 它可以用来引出另一个跟前面叙述有差异或对比的状况。C 选项 The first color evokes the blue skies above the plains, while the latter represents golden fields of wheat. 第一个颜色唤起了平原上的蓝天，而后者代表了金色的麦田。这里的关键词是 the first color、the latter， 还有呢 blue skies 和 golden fields of wheat， 这表示前文可能会提到2种颜色，分别代表了蓝天和金色麦田。选项 D In contrast, Ireland's flag is more about the nation's hopes for the future than its history. 相较之下，爱尔兰的国旗比较是与国家对未来的期望有关，而不是其历史。那注意这边用到转折词 in contrast， 表示相比之下、相较之下，或者是相反地。那可以用来连接语义相反或呈现对比的讯息。再看到 E 选项，他说 Inside the sun is a circle crossed by two sets of lines. 太阳内部是一个由2组线交叉的圆圈。这边的关键词是 sun 还有 circle， 这可能是在描述某一种国旗的图样，而且呢前文叙述可能有提到太阳哦。那我们现在已经快速浏览了这5个选项，接着就来做题目吧。 好，看到第一个空格，它位于第二段。那这个段落前2句提到乌克兰的国旗只用了2个颜色，鲜明的蓝色和黄色横条展现了该国丰富的农业遗产。那空格后面的句子则提到，这个设计可能获选的原因是因为小麦对该国经济至关重要。我们就可以从关键字蓝色、黄色还有小麦来寻找符合的答案。那选项 C 它提到第一个颜色唤起了平原上的蓝天，而后者代表了金色的麦田。这个答案它就包含了关键字 blue skies 蓝天，还有 golden fields of wheat 金色的麦田，所以是正确答案哦。再看到第二个空格，它位于第3段。那这个段落是在介绍日本国旗，空格前方提到了日本国旗有一个红色圆圈 red circle 位于纯白色矩形的中心，接着说明了红色与白色各自代表的意义。然后空格后面又提到 it它代表着升起的太阳 rising sun 以及太阳女神天照。那从以上线索可以得知，关键字有 circle 和 sun。那我们的选项 A 有提到 circular shape， 选项 E 有提到 sun 和 circle， 它们都含有相关字词。可是从语义上来看，E 选项的太阳内部是一个由2组线交叉的圆圈，这不符合日本国旗的描述。那选项 A 他说圆形的重要意义也不应被忽视，在这边它是比较符合逻辑而且符合语义的，所以是正确答案。好，再看到第3个空格，它位于第4段的第1句，推测呢可能是这个段落的主题句。空格后方提到该设计中填满了3个大小相等，分别为绿、橙、白3个颜色的垂直矩形，并说明了这3个颜色的意义。那前2个代表曾经发生过暴力冲突的基督教团体，白色则象征着渴望已久的和平。那么从语义上来判断，所描述的国旗它诉求的是一种对未来的期盼，跟前面提到的乌克兰和日本2国国旗设计的意涵不同。那剩下3个选项当中，选项 B 它有使用转折词 on the other hand， 不过它提到说另一方面有些国旗像是爱尔兰的国旗用颜色来象征权力和民族的骄傲。虽然有关键字 Ireland， 但是跟第3段空格后方的叙述不符合，所以不是正确答案哦。好，那么选项 D 它有用到转折词 in contrast， 它提到说相较之下，爱尔兰的国旗更多关乎国家对未来的期望，而非其历史。这句不但可以用来连接这个段落的语义，也可以作为该段的主题句，所以是正确答案。再看到第4个空格，它所在的段落是在说明吉尔吉斯国旗设计的意义。空格前一句提到，在这面国旗上，太阳有40道光芒，每一道代表着联合组成该国的40个部落。而空格后方的句子则描述这代表蒙古包，一种传统的帐篷。我们可以推测空格应该是跟国旗设计内容有关。那我们的选项 E 它提到太阳内部是一个由2组线交叉的圆圈，这边有关键字 sun 和 circle， 然后也符合语义，所以是正确答案。好，那么以上今天的讲解，我们回顾简单字吧。
Horizontal. The carpenter made sure the horizontal placement was perfect for the shelf in the kitchen. Agricultural. Many businesses in the small town rely heavily on the sale of local agricultural products. Heritage. The yearly festivals introduce tourists to the tribe's rich cultural heritage. Economically. The new policy can bring more investments to the nation's economically disadvantaged regions. Vital. In emergency situations, efficient medical care can be vital in saving lives. Representation. The bright colors in the painting act as a representation of the artist's positive emotional state. Overlook. Connie got a low score on her essay because she overlooked some important details of the teacher's instructions.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Kiki.
I am Roger.
See you next time.